All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. This episode, we are going back to our Shudder subscriptions that it seems like we really hadn't been using for quite a while. Well, I guess Joe Bob was on there. We weren't really talking about it like we were when we first got Shudder. I know we did, it seemed like we did like 4 or 5 episodes in a row that were Shudder related. But
we were hitting all the Shudder features for a while there, and then kind of backed off, it seems like.
But so we fired back up the Shudder this past month, and this episode we're talking about something again brand new. I think this will come out in 2019 yet, so we're talking again about something that came out in 2019. This might be the last new thing of the year that we actually talk about. Maybe. No guarantees, though. But this year we're talking about 2019's Creepshow the Series.
Yeah, which was something that I was really excited about when I first heard about it. And I think it was, they started posting ads for it. What was it, earlier in this year? Or somewhere around then. They had some pretty cool poster art and things like that. And because I'm a huge fan of Creepshow 1 and Creepshow 2. And I don't know if everybody knows the story, but the Creepshow 3, which came out, I think, in either the late 90s or early 2000s, was a horrible film. And it had, I think it just had, was called Creepshow 3 just because the producers somehow bought the rights to the name or whatever. But it was terrible, and I remember being very disappointed with that. So I've been hoping for some type of connection back to those first 2 classic films, and finally we get it in 2019 with Shudder.
Yeah, it's so crazy. When did Creepshow 2 come out? Do you know off the top of your head?
Creepshow 2, I want to say, I'm going to guess it was probably in the mid 80s or mid to late 80s, I'm going to guess, but I was right. I was very close. It's actually closer to the late 80s, 1987.
Ah, okay. So 22 years, because I don't count Creepshow 3 either as a Creepshow entry.
No, that's garbage. That doesn't have anything to do with it. And actually, Creepshow, you were the one who introduced me to Creepshow, both 1 and 2. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yeah, I remember having Creepshow on VHS, and it was like a huge deal back in those days.
Did you had both of them, right, on VHS?
Probably, I think so.
Because I remember you brought them over after school, and we walked over to my house and watched them, and that was the first time I saw it was with you. And I remember I remember you bringing both of them. I could be wrong, unless maybe the first one was there was always a friend or somebody back then that they would get the video first, and then it kind of make its rounds through everybody's hands, and I think maybe the first one was like that, unless you remember having the first one.
I do remember having the first one for sure. I probably had the second one too, or maybe it was the second one that was that way. I'm not sure, but I do remember having the first one because I remember that was one of those things where I think I asked for that for Christmas or my birthday, and I got it, and I was like, "Oh, cool!"
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I remember the first time we saw that, either before or after we saw it, we walked to Kmart together through the woods. I don't know if you remember that. And it was around September, October, and we walked to Kmart, and there was this little Hallmark shop nearby next to Kmart in the chain. And I remember you stole a Halloween candle. You still have that candle somewhere?
No, I do not.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Hopefully the statute of limitations is passed on that.
You were pretty good at getting that thing out the door, too.
The owner of that Hallmark store is probably listening to this, and that's the son of a bitch who took that.
Last time I saw that Hallmark store, I don't know what it was. It was I looked in the window, and I don't think there was anything in there. It was a dilapidated old storefront.
Those are always the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they keep doing that. They keep doing that here in town, building these little strip mall things, and then, quarter mile away, there's a 4 empty stores and the other little strip mall thing that they had built a couple years ago. And,
right.
Half mile down the road from that, there's another one that's like got 2 things in it. And it's just...
When this finally came out, I think you and I were both pretty excited. Was this the thing that got us to both? No, it was Joe Bob was probably what got us to pull the trigger to get back on Shudder. But this was definitely like another caveat. Like we knew that this was coming.
Yeah, this was one of the things, because I think both of us are the same way when it comes to Shudder. It comes with a lot of stuff, but unless there's something on there like this that people are like, oh, you got to see that, or, something we knew about that we were looking forward to for a while. I really don't turn my Shudder on very often. I mean, if I turn it, if I even turn it on once a week right now is probably a shock, and it was kind of that way before. But the only reason why I kept it was because it was, dirt cheap. It's only like whatever, $4 or $5 a month.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
And I know they were talking about jacking the prices up for like new people, but existing people got to keep the price. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and keep it for whatever, the $4.99 a month. That's fine. That's not a big deal. Yeah, I think it was Joe Bob when we were like, oh, we got to get Shudder for that. And then... Yeah,
I think you're right. I think that's what kind of got us back in, because we both had a subscription and then we both canceled it, right?
Yeah, because I had Shudder a couple of different times.
Yeah, me too. I had it like a few times, or I would hold it for the first month before you have to pay, and then I'd cancel it. And
yep.
Then I'd be like, oh, I got all the ones I like on Blu-ray, so I don't really need this. And then like, oh wait, Joe Bob's on there. Oh, I need that. Okay. And then we were watching that for a while and brought us back into the loop. One thing I wanted to say, though, and I know, we practically are, Shudder's practically a sponsor of the Horror Heads podcast. And given that we've given it so much positivity, I do have to give it a little negativity. So I love you, Shudder. I love you. I think you're great. But I think it is really, really screwy that you have the app version and then you have the Amazon Prime version. And the reason that pisses me off is because I'm trapped watching all of the Shudder things in my bedroom, because I can't watch it on my living room TV because I can't get Shudder on. I don't have a smart TV. I have a Blu-ray player with a bunch of apps in it, and I have a Fire Stick in my bedroom. So unless I buy a Fire Stick, I can't just go on Amazon Prime and watch Shudder, because I already have a subscription. I actually have to get another subscription, and I think that's kind of lame. So, and then we had that issue too, right? Because was it with Joe Bob where we got a subscription through Amazon, and then all of a sudden we found out, oh wait, you can't watch these shows. You have to get the app, and it's like, what?
Yeah, and I don't know if Shudder's the only one that does it that way. With the live streaming's not available on the Prime channel, but I know that like on Shudder you can't live stream stuff, which is a downfall for Joe Bob. But I mean, honestly, for me, really anymore, except for like the first time I'm like, oh, Joe Bob's on. This like last time, like when he was on Halloween and stuff, I didn't catch any of that on Halloween, so it really wouldn't have been that big of a deal for that. But I will say I do agree with you with that 100%, because Shudder does that, and then I know that there's a couple of the other things, like the channels that you get through Amazon Prime, that are completely different than the subscriptions you can get for the same thing via an app or like online outside of Amazon. Because that's the same thing with, because I have, this isn't horror related at all, but I have the NBA League Pass, and because I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan, I always have been since I was a little kid. They are not, I live in Wisconsin, and I live far enough away from the Chicagoland area that they're not on any channels ever, and especially nowadays because they suck. So you can't watch them at all on. They never are on any TNT or whatever, and I don't have cable anyway. So, but anyway, you can get the NBA League Pass through Amazon, but you can only get the like all or nothing thing. Well, I don't need to watch every game. I just want to watch the Bulls games, so I get that through like the regular app where I can just pick the one team and it's a lot cheaper.
I see.
But
okay.
Yeah, but luckily for me, I have a Fire Stick for our TV downstairs, and the Amazon does let you install like the apps for the different things. So I have like Shudder on that, and I have like my NBA app on there, so I can watch that kind of stuff on there.
So I guess I'll have to get another Fire Stick. I have one in my room, but now I'll need one in the living room too. Bastards.
So I wonder, I mean, not that this really saves you anything, but I wonder, like, your Fire Stick, how big of a pain in the ass is that to unplug from the one TV and plug into the other one?
Well, it's a pain in the ass because the TV in my bedroom is in an armoire that's really heavy.
Okay.
So I have to, like, the cords go through it, and then I gotta, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's enough of a deal that you don't want to do it consistently. You know what I mean?
Okay. The reason why I asked is because, like, our TV in our living room is just, like, out in the open. Like, it's on top of a stand thing, and the HDMI ports are on the back of it, and, like, they're readily accessible.
Well, yeah, same with mine in the living room.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, like, I mean, not that it really, I mean, doesn't really save you that much, but it's just a matter of, like, unplugging one and plugging in the other one. But if it's a pain in the ass, then that's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. So, the Creepshow TV show, I got through all the episodes. I assume you got through them all as well?
I did, yep.
And they did two stories per episode, so you would get to watch, like, what were they, like, about, how long were they, you think? Maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes even, maybe? 25,
Yeah, I
30?
think they were like 20, 25 minutes a piece. I don't think each episode, like the whole thing, I don't think was an hour.
Yeah. And, going back to the original Creepshow, again, this goes back to the whole concept of Creepshow was they were trying to bring back the vibe of the old EC comics, the horror comics back in the day, like Tales from the Crypt and all that. And, with Stephen King, George A. Romero, and they wanted to bring back that old vibe. And they really did a good job with those, Creepshow 1 and Creepshow 2. And so this time around, that's what, we're kind of getting is that, that feel of those old school horror stories, And to start with, I want to first go and say that I loved the practical effects and the animation that they used for the creep. And that's one of the things in the original movies is they had this like character that was kind of like the in between of the between the stories and like kind of the beginning and the end, like I don't know, I guess a host, if I can't come up with a better term, but like the creep was like this, basically the skeleton character, and he's definitely in the original one. You see him like looking out the window and all of that, or looking through the window in the first film, and then they do the whole animation, and they do a really good job with that in this one. I think of bringing that back into the storyline.
The other thing with the series going back to the original two movies is that, yeah, outside of the Creep 2, even for the most part overall, they even kind of capture the same feel of Creepshow, even though the stories were different in Creepshow. But it's kind of weird where you had like I can't remember the name of it, the one with like Ted Danson and the beach or whatever it was called. I don't remember if it was called the beach.
The Tide?
The Tide, yeah. So you had like the Tide, and then you had like the Raft, which, granted, yeah, they're both on the water, but they're two different completely types of stories, but they still kind of had that same feel, like they were in that same universe, and that's how the stories in this felt. To me, is they still felt like they were kind of in that Creepshow universe. To where even like some of them, they had like different lighting and different cinematography. They still felt like they belonged together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the first episode or the first story that we had was Gray Matter, and that was with Adrienne Barbeau, and that was a Stephen King story, and it really had that sort of Stephen King feel to it. I don't know, it totally had that vibe, and that first story was about this guy who his wife just recently passed away, and he's sort of becoming a recluse, and it's just him and his son living in the house, and he's drinking this beer, and he keeps asking his son to go out and get him this beer, and there's something weird with the beer, and it starts to turn him into this creature, and it's got like that, like what was it, like this sort of like slime or whatever, mucus coming out of the beer that.
Yeah.
And that one, actually, that story, you could tell even before I knew it was a Stephen King story, that, that just totally had that Stephen King vibe written all over it.
Yeah, and it was weird, too, that it kind of... You could almost compare that first episode of this to The Force Awakens, where it has that same, like, almost like reboot kind of feel to it, to where some people are like, oh, you're copying that. That's the same story. We have already seen that.
Yeah.
But it's different. So, because, that's the same thing I said, too. I was like, oh, I could see this being like the same thing. Like, you could almost see, like, those two stories, like, kind of back to back.
Yeah.
Or even, like, kind of, in caps to a Creepshow movie.
Oh, yeah.
It had, like, the... whatever Geordie Virgil or whatever the hell his name was, and then 2 or 3 other stories, and then Gray Matter at the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then and having Adrienne Barbeau and then actually Tobin Bell too from Saw, both those actor and actress were in there, and that was I think that kind of gave it sort of a little bit more weight. And I don't think we didn't really get anybody. I know that later on we got one of the. What was it? One of the Arquettes. He was in it later on, but this first episode, they kind of start out pretty strong with some familiar faces, and yeah, like you said, it really did feel like a Creepshow story. I could totally picture them like squeezing Gray Matter into like Creepshow 2. It could have been like the episode that was never put in there or whatever. And then the second one on that same on episode number 1, we also had House of the Head, which I thought was actually a really cool episode.
It was. The only problem I had with that episode, which kind of we'll probably get into this a little bit more as we go along too, but was when the effects kind of seemed to be a little bit lacking when the house got outside of the dollhouse.
Yeah.
And then you could totally tell, like, oh, that's just some big, giant latex head.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun story, too. I thought it was kind of cool, about this little girl who, she's got this big, giant dollhouse and, this, family of dolls inside the house. And there's this creepy little decapitated zombie head that's in there and keeps popping up in different scenarios, and like it's affecting the other dolls, and like that was a pretty cool idea. It was kind of and it was sort of like a low budget, because there's nothing really happens there. You don't really see anything. It's sort of like at the after effects. Like obviously they take the dolls and rearrange them for the next scene and whatever. I did like the little Easter egg though of having the old Chief Woodenhead back in that episode. I thought that was pretty cool.
I do know that after that first episode aired, because Creepshow kind of took the Hulu model for this series rather than like the Netflix model. So when it came out, there wasn't all 6 episodes just ready to go. You had to wait a week in between them. But I know after the first episode came out, there was a lot of people kind of bitching that, like, oh, this is a kid show. This isn't Creepshow. And I will admit that it was a little bit tamer than what we were used to after that first episode. But still, to me, it was Creepshow.
Yeah, it didn't bother me so much. I didn't really see it that way. The next two as well, going into the next episode, we had Bad Wolf Down and The Finger. And Bad Wolf Down, I actually thought that was a really cool one. That was the one with the army guys, and they get stuck in that I don't know, it was like a building or whatever, and there's a werewolf inside there, and then they're surrounded by the Nazis, and then the Nazis want to get in. Oh, that was a pretty good episode. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was cool. What'd you think about the transformation scenes in that episode?
I thought they probably were saying, okay, well, how are we going to do a werewolf transformation scene? And then they looked at their budget and said, I guess we're just going to have to animate it in the comic book.
Yeah. Goes back to the same, it was another one part of the special effects area must have been like, we don't have money for that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's continue on.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
I did like the design for the werewolf, though.
It was a cool looking thing.
There were like 3 different designs, and then there was one that looked very much like the Howling, which has always been like one of my top favorite werewolf designs, and so that was kind of cool to see that. Following the Bad Wolf down, we had the Finger, and that was the one about the guy who finds that like that severed finger and brings it home. I can't remember. Did he find it like somewhere? I can't remember the whole beginning of that story. But either way, he brings it home, and then it slowly morphs into like. I thought that was kind of a cool idea, though. So you get this like this severed finger, and then over time, the creature that the finger was attached to starts to grow from the finger. So you've got like all of a sudden you've got a finger, you've got a hand, you've got an arm, you've got a body, and it just kind of goes from there. And it turned into this like little, reminded me very much of like like a mixture between the Alien and Pumpkinhead or something like that. It was just a weird little thing. And that was a pretty cool story. I mean, that was fun. That was something I could picture like in an old classic episode of Creepshow. And then following the Finger, we're going into episode 3, and we had All Hallows Eve and the Man in the Suitcase, and which was kind of weird that they did the All Hallows Eve then, because their actual last episode, which was 6, was released on Halloween, October 31st. And then for whatever reason, they put this one before that.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, actually. Because I remember that, too, because me and you had plans on Halloween, and I knew that, like, Creepshow is going to end. The last episode is going to be on Halloween. That's kind of cool. And then that episode came out, and I was like, this is kind of weird. They're doing a Halloween episode already. But I didn't know what the other stories were, so I thought maybe, maybe they're going to have a Halloween episode every week.
And I will say that All Hallows Eve, I know the criticism of it being too much of a kid-friendly thing, that was probably the most Goosebump-ish episode of all of them. It kind of gave that vibe. I remember watching Goosebumps with my kids, and that to me seemed to hold that vibe a little bit. Would you say that one was sort of, I don't know, kid-friendly-ish?
Yeah, I would. And then it finally that. The second one of week 3 is kind of where it finally took a step away from the kid-friendly feel to it with the Man in the Suitcase. Right.
And that one, I remember it, because we're watching all these episodes and we're there's one every week, and, life is busy. So it's you sometimes forget exactly everything that happened in these episodes. And that one to me, I remember was did that one get pretty gruesome?
It wasn't gory or anything, but the implication was there that they were torturing this poor guy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I would say it got more uncomfortable than anything it's almost like watching some torture porn from the early 2000s.
That's right.
Felt like it was right out of a Hostel or something.
Too funny. Now going into season or episode 4, for whatever reason. Oh no, okay, now I do remember the companion. I didn't remember that at first, but that was about that bully, and he had that weird creature he finds in the what was it, in a barn or something? Looked like a scarecrow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that one was that was a quick one. Was that the one that starts off where they're in the kids fishing underneath the bridge? and then the other kid comes by, and it's like, was that the companion?
I don't remember.
Okay. And then Lydia Lane's better half. That one was another one that like I remember, and it wasn't, yet it wasn't like one that I remembered all that well. That was the one, remember, with the two women, and they're like, it's like in an office, and then like the one woman is the boss, and she's giving a promotion to the two staff members, and then she decides for the guy, she gives the promotion to the guy, and then he walks out happy, and then the woman is upset, and like the boss is basically saying, well, I wanted you around, that's why I didn't want you out traveling, so that's why I gave it to the guy, and she accidentally kills her, I'm sorry, and then takes her body into the elevator, and she's trying to get rid of her.
Yeah, and so again, I mean, that one kind of goes back to what I was saying with the second half of the week 3, where it was almost like they kind of heard these complaints that, hey, you guys are being too kid friendly. So then they were like, oh, we got to step it up a little bit here.
Right. Oh, too funny.
Because I remember, like, yeah, when she gets it, and it's kind of like a little like kind of gory, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. And then we're going into the last 2 episodes, and we have Night of the Paw. That was the one, you and I had talked about that one, I remember, a few times.
Yep.
And then there was Times is Tough and Muskie Holler. And that one, for whatever reason, I don't remember watching that one. I know I saw it, but I don't remember it at all.
Yeah, I don't either. And I will say, I will admit that by the time that week 5 came around, and I started watching week 5, I will say that the Night of the Paw episode I kind of have a good idea of why it did this, but probably about halfway through that episode, I was like, I don't like this. And then that Times is Tough and Muskie Holler, I remember not liking that episode at all, and I honestly think I shut it off before it was over.
So we're doing our best to review this, even though we don't remember them, but...
Well, and I will say, though, with the night, I remember the Night of the Paw 100%.
Yeah, I remember that one very well, yeah.
And I also will say that, to me, that episode really felt like I'd seen it before. I mean, to me, that was a completely unoriginal story. It felt like we'd seen that.
Yeah.
More than once. And actually, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's probably been a Twilight Zone episode about that. And probably even like the Outer Limits probably had an episode about it too.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it just seems like that's a really like, a genie in the bottle type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's really what. And to me, it was just kind of like, oh, this is. It felt very lazy to me because it was very predictable.
Yeah.
And then the second like story in that week's episode, I didn't like that at all. I remember because I didn't finish it, so I was like, ugh.
Well, we had kind of 2 genies in the bottle. So we had Night of the Paw, and then we also had the one with the guy in the suitcase. So very similar stories in that sense. And then the last one on Halloween, October 31st, we had By the Silver Water of Lake Champlain, which was the one that, with the sea monster. And then we had Skin Crawlers, which was kind of an interesting one. That was the one with the, like, where the guy goes to the place to lose weight, and there's like this revolutionary new creature they found, and it's like these leech things, and then like you let them suck on you, it takes all your fat out basically, and then it like causes issues, and everybody's like getting sick and dying that was kind of an interesting one. I thought it kind of ended kind of not as good as it started, like, going back to like, the one with the dollhouse and the head in there, and then the first one with Adrienne Barbeau, with the like we talked about, really kind of set up the stage for a great Creepshow episode. I thought it kind of wrapped. It didn't end on a high note, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. It started off with Creepshow 1 and slowly moved into Creepshow 2 area. And sadly, I would agree that it sort of ended on Creepshow 3 territory.
Maybe not as bad, but it could have ended a little better, I think. So overall, though, I think it, definitely the in-between stuff was cool, just like seeing the creep and everything, and, some of that stuff. It gave you that vibe of, we're watching a Creepshow episode where I don't know. I love that kind of stuff, that like classic horror type animation and all of that.
Well, it was announced before it even finished wrapping up airing that they were going to be doing a second season. I guess that's going to be pretty cool. I mean, I'll still watch it and stuff. I mean, it didn't deter me that much. I mean, I enjoyed, for the most part, everything about this season. The only episode I didn't really like was that fifth week's one. I thought that one was kind of lame.
Yeah.
And then the sixth week's one, you know, I kind of felt that one was, like, it just didn't, the skin crawlers one or whatever it was called, that one didn't really seem like it fit in with the rest of them.
Right.
To me. A lot of people were trying to claim that this series was breaking a lot of records and stuff, but then I never really saw any numbers about that. And so I wonder, and I would be really curious to know the answer to this, is in comparison to like Joe Bob, how many people are watching Creepshow compared to Joe Bob? I don't know if that's even necessarily even something you can truthfully compare, because a lot of the Joe Bob episodes are gone.
I think the Creepshow, I think actually a lot of people were pulled into Shudder because of Creepshow, and I think I was talking to somebody and they were talking about how like they're starting to see ads for Shudder in more mainstream areas because of Creepshow. So I think Creepshow and Joe Bob were like the two big pulls, I think, for definitely this year for Shudder. So I'm really excited to see what they've got in store for us.
Yeah, because I know that seems to be the thing now, is just like studios and whatnot just all of a sudden just make these outlandish claims about different things and then never really provide any like actual evidence to back their claims up, and then people are like, oh yeah, well the studio said that's true, so it's got to be true.
Right.
It's like all this stuff with Joker. They keep saying Joker's the most profitable rated R movie ever made, or the most profitable comic book movie ever made. And I'm like, well, Endgame made like almost $3 billion, and Endgame didn't cost $1 billion to make. So how is that not more profitable than the Joker, which has only made $1 billion? It's just another example of people making claims that they don't really seem to make sense. But I'm not saying that Creepshow, it wasn't breaking records or anything. I would just like to.
Yeah, be interesting to find out.
Yeah, because I mean, Netflix can do that stuff too. They can just be, because they don't ever release their numbers. It's like iTunes doesn't ever release any numbers or anything, and you know, you could be like, oh, this movie was our most watched movie ever. That's why we're making another one. But then everybody you talk to is like, oh, I hated that movie. Or I didn't watch that movie.
Right, exactly. Well, before we wrap this up, I know that we're getting close to wrapping up this episode. I do want to say I apologize to all of our fans. We have taken way too long to get to this. I know we've talked about doing an episode on Bingo O'Malley since his passing, his untimely passing, and that, which was this past June. Gosh, that seems like for ages ago. But anyhow, you know, Bingo O'Malley, he was known for, he was in the original Creepshow, in the episode, like we had talked about, the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill, and he played Jordy's dad in those flashback scenes. So, you know, we want to say farewell to this horror legend. He was also in My Bloody Valentine 3D. And, you know, he had kind of a small part in that as well. But so I know that a lot of the Horror Heads fans have been asking about Bingo O'Malley. When's that episode coming out? And so we wanted to give our condolences to his passing.
So with that, I'm going to say that I'll give Creepshow a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I think overall it was a lot of fun, and I certainly look forward to it every week.